welcome to everyone here today. On behalf of TiE, I'd like to thank you all for being here to be a part of this celebration and felicitation of someone incredibly important to us as a community. To take this event further, I'd like to call upon Mrs. Priya Shetty Rajagopal.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to have everyone here together, and you know that we are having far too few events after COVID. And this is a great time for all of us to get some faces, some eyes, some handshakes. And today, for the first time for our Trailblazers, which we launched sometime last year, we have our own Bangalore man, Nandan, here. You know, so we're all excited about his book. I was just telling him that we are looking forward to it. But I want to, before we, I'm sure the citation is somewhere on its way now, and we'll get that going. But one of the things that I want to be able to share is that all of us, without exception, look at Nandan as being our own person, our Bangalore boy, one way or the other. So whether he likes it or not, all of us take collective ownership of him. And then there it is, you know, Nandan, you know, the guy who sort of built Infosys, of course. So we take a lot of pride, I think, in our Bangalore boy. And what we also need to remember is that he has been the first founder president of TiE. And when we looked at, yes, it was an amazing looking back when we had conceptualized the Trailblazers Award, that you have so many wonderful stars on the horizon who are right here. But the very first founder president to be, you know, I think we've come to him a little last when he's found some time, but it's been fantastic to see what he's done, and also to know how much he's inspired Bangalore in ways which are fabulous, because he just has been Nandan. I think that has been something which sounds cliched, but he has inspired by just being who he is, and by, in some ways, embodying what Bangalore is all about. The spirit of entrepreneurship, the spirit of can-do, humility. I'm very conscious of cliches, but I know these words do come together when you think of Nandan. And constant reinvention, and strong belief, and the word global. For me, Nandan is a lot of, he seems to be an acronym king. So whether it is the current one, which is ODNC, is that right? ONDC. Okay, slightly dyslexic, so forgive me. ONDC, I mean, you just name it. We remember 2015, Leapfrog, when Nandan stood on a stage in the ITC Gardenia and talked about the WhatsApp moment in finance. And it was an unbelievable moment. And I was not the only one who was really, really saying, oh my God, this is possible. It's 2015, I think that was how long. So 7 years later, here we are, and there have been so many different things that have happened. So the Nandan I know is a friend and a fellow quiz group member. We go back a few hundred years, but yeah, a few hundred years, it's a little embarrassing, but there it is. We go back so long, but he's an entrepreneur. He's the IT guy, and then he's the author, and then he's the politician, and then he is the reinventor, and then he's this the person who's looking at the economy of the country and research and think tank, and he's the philanthropist. And I think he has all these people, all these so wonderfully put together under his hat. We were just talking about the things that we were doing, and I said my company is called Multiversal, and I think I need to quickly add him in as an advisory member, because he's done so many extraordinary things, and he's made it look easy. And he has, as I said, he has just been. I remember going with Rohini and a couple of our friends when we were doing the time that Nandan was standing, and there was a lady, a flower lady in Janagar, who I was talking to say, you must vote. And she said, for whom? This person I know. My grandson also is in software. So, you know, at the end of it, whether you want to make it as ubiquitous as that's how we are known. We're known because people like him believed, people like him invested, people like him reinvented. And at the end of it, just by that, Today you look at Bangalore being the unicorn capital. It is a combination of belief and phenomenal humility of a world that is possible. And he's always talked about global. I was looking at one of his recent McKinsey interviews with, I think, somebody Kumrai. Very, very interesting in terms of what a 1 billion person population can do, what a demographic can do for the whole world, and what can work here can work anywhere else. Every single time there's something new. So if I look at Nandan and I say, okay, I know you as X or Y, I really don't. I don't know what he's going to be like tomorrow. But right now I know he's a very proud grandfather. So I would be happy to read out the citation, or I'm happy to call in one of our colleagues to do that, but very, very delighted, Nandan, today. After TiE's, we have spent so many years in Bangalore, to have our founding president back, and to know that this constant kind of energy and belief and vision, again, cliches because we don't see it coming together so often, are really there with somebody like yourself doing extraordinary things and still managing to get away by being the boy next door. I know Nandan, okay, So for everything that has happened so far and what is there in your future, I hope that you'll be able to support TiE and stand by TiE in our journey together, because you're the one who started it all. So can we? I think we always will. While we know that Bangalore always has your unflinching support, we deem it our privilege to honor you with the SpiritofTiE Trailblazers Award, a maiden initiative at our chapter. While you have been feted nationally and globally for your entrepreneurial spirits, soaring achievements, significant initiatives of giving back to the society, we also know Bangalore will always have a special place in your heart, given your own pioneering leadership in creating this vibrant ecosystem. From all of us on the board of TiE Bangalore and the entire charter member community, we thank you for being who you are and trust that you will allow us the pleasure of honoring you through this award. I'm going to call whoever is on the governing board to come in onto the stage, please. Thank you very much. And a round of applause, please. Madan Padki, Geeta Ramamurthy, Sanjay, I'll read out everyone's. Satyanarayan, Ravi Guru Raj is not here, Naganand, Sanjay is here, Jawahar, BK cannot be here, Anand is also out of town, Kanika, Suri Prakash, Suri, Venkatesh, Joy. Look forward to having you all on the stage so we can hand it over and do the honors. Come. Thank you so much for allowing us this honor, Nandan, and for being part of this incredible journey of TiE going forward. I'm going to hand this over back to our MC, and we are all looking forward to a wonderful book discussion. I am really excited about that. So over to you.
Terrific. Thank you, Priya, for getting us through this wonderful moment of felicitating Nandan. Nandan, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all for this wonderful felicitation. I'm really touched by all this, what you have done, and thank you all.
Thank you. In fact, we have we still have the trust deed of TiE Bangalore 1999, which talks about you as the founding president. We had Kiran on the board and a few others. But I was just reflecting, Nandan, that since then, Bangalore, India, and of course your own journey has been through a phenomenal set of experiences. I really loved what Priya was talking about the various hats that you've donned and the various roles you played. I still remember 2000 when I was doing a summer project was the year that you kicked off the Bangalore Agenda Task Force, right? So even those days. So would love to hear your reflection on your own journeys over the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah, I think it's quite actually, I'm not normally the kind of person who looks back. I always look forward, but I think this has been a wonderful occasion to look back. And I think, of course, 1999 was the height of the .com boom and all that. That's when we started TiE, and we had a wonderful start. And but that's also the time that I got active in civic life and spent 4 or 5 years looking at, and many of the things still around. I mean, we created a whole idea of public transparency by government and so on. So that was a wonderful journey. And then I became the CEO at Infosys, and that was a time when the global economy was really booming between 02 and 07. So that was another experience for me. And then I wrote my first book, Imagining India, which did pretty well. And then I got an invitation to join the government, which I took. And that was again a random decision in some sense, because it was actually quite a big leap for me to leave at a nice corner office overlooking a golf course and to go to Delhi and sit in some, temporary office. I was doing a startup inside the government.
Exactly.
Without stock options.
Yeah.
Psychic only psychic options. So, so that was another experience for me, being in the system, navigating government, getting the Aadhaar done and all that. And then I tried another thing, which I guess one thing is you learn in enterprise is fast fail. So I did a fast fail in politics. And then I realized I was really pushing the limit of my ability to switch things. And then I said, this is not my cup of tea. And then I was wondering what to do with myself, because I was unemployed. I'd left the government. I'd lost in politics. I'd done with Infosys. So I was sort of wondering what to do. And so I began a couple of things. One was the Ek Step, which has done a lot of work on education. And then I became an advisor to NPCI on innovation and public policy. And that's when we conceived of UPI.
Absolutely.
And as you mentioned, that talk which I gave in TiE in August of
2015. Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time on that talk, and it was actually when I look back, it was quite prescient about many of the things. I mean, actually there's one slide that says NPCI is about to introduce UPI. And nobody in the audience, I think, knew what is this UPI and all that. So that, and the whole fact that the phone would replace cards and all that was, we had thought about all that. And then, of course, a lot of effort went into launching UPI, and this was August 2015 was when we talked about UPI.
Right.
We had the actual launch in May of 2016. And then in October 2016, it had reached 100,000 transactions. And then demonetization happened. And then everything took off after that. And today, as you know, it does 6 billion transactions a month. And last year was $1 trillion. And Aadhaar has reached 1.3 billion people. And even Aadhaar, there's a story, because when I I stood the election, I lost the election, and then I'd also had to give up my house in Delhi, so I'd gone to Delhi to vacate my house. And there were all these, talk about Aadhaar being scrapped and all that, so I was getting a little nervous. I said, I spent 5 years of my life building this, and I hope nothing happens. Then my wife and my friend Ram Sevak Sharma, who was my CEO and is now the head of NHA, they said, no, you should go and meet Prime Minister. So I said, look, I've just lost an election on the opposite side. What will he say to me? He said, no, you go and meet him. So I called up the PMO and said, I want a meeting with the PM. And this was, I was in Delhi only for a day or two.
Okay.
So they very graciously gave a meeting the very next day.
Wow.
in a way that I could travel back. So that meeting was very good, and we spent half an hour talking about, well, he was really asking me questions and I was explaining why we should support this. And he knew it, it's just that he wanted to, I guess, get my final thing on it. So then he became a huge champion of Aadhaar and JAM and, the whole thing. So I think I've had really multiple hats, right? There's the entrepreneur hat, and Infosys being the most significant example of that. There's been the technocrat, bureaucrat, plumber hat, which is Aadhaar and UPI and many other things. Then there's the failed politician hat, which lasted about 3-4 months. Then there's the philanthropist and sort of social kind of thing. So it's been interesting, and as Priya mentioned, I think I have a pathological fear of becoming irrelevant. So when you have the fear of becoming irrelevant, then you keep on desperately trying to reinvent yourself so that you are relevant. So that's what I keep doing.
You are really giving us a complex when you say you have a pathological fear of being irrelevant. We are all squirming in our seats.
No.
But it's amazing.
It is what drives me in some
Exactly.
sense.
I think that reinventing and embracing change is not an easy thing. You get stuck.
I think, again, I have this issue that I never think about the past, which may be I don't know, there's a feature or a bug. Maybe a bug for all you know. But so I'm always looking at what next, and that's how it's been. And even my going back to Infosys was not planned. I was, I was roaming around doing all this stuff, and then a situation arose where I had to go back, and I think I was the lowest. I don't know whether the lowest common denominator or the highest common factor, but whatever it was, I went back, and that was another journey because it's been quite a journey since then. So I've gone through these multiple phases.
So if you were to just, if there are some lessons we can draw out, and for our entrepreneurs here, and a lot of us will watch this online as well later, and then what would your advice be to the entrepreneurs who are embarking on their journey today?
Well, I think I believe in playing the long game. So to me, enterprise is about building long-term, sustainable, profitable, scalable institutions with has culture, purpose, institutional, resilience. So I mean, it's 40 years since Info set up, and I'm still there, and I'm still as excited as ever. So I think it's about, I believe that that's what we need. And I'm a big believer in positive cash flow and, actually making money from what we do and so on. So I think, so it's a little old-fashioned, right? And I prefer revenue of billion than market cap of billion. So that kind of thing. So I think I think people have to go in there and build companies. But I think maybe we began in an era where you had the luxury of time. Today everybody's under the gun. Every startup has 10 other lookalikes that other VCs have funded. You have to, move very quickly. So I can understand the pressures. But by the way, I meet a lot of entrepreneurs. I also have a fund, Fundamentum. So that's another thing I do. I forgot, which is quite successful actually. And when we look for investments, finally look at the entrepreneur. Does he have the right value system? Is he a long distance runner? Is he going to build for the future? And I find they're the best people to back.
Terrific. Now, switching gears a bit. I mean, you've seen Bangalore evolve over the last so many years.
By the way, I was also born in Bangalore, so I'm not a guy who came here. I was born here.
Terrific. Terrific. Okay, I didn't know that.
Huh?
Okay, I didn't realize
Not
that.
only I was born here, I was born in Vani Vilas Government Hospital.
Arre, wow. Okay.
So get this right.
Okay. The moment this gets out, Vani Vilas will put a photo of yours in that hospital now.
No, in fact, I must tell you that my daughter who set up this maternity center, she's actually, she also has, she's doing some, natural childbirth and all that. She's also doing a NGO to help midwife training.
Okay.
And she's tied up with Vani Vilas.
Wonderful.
So that's
wow.
ultimate giving back.
Yeah. Terrific. So from your own lens of seeing Bangalore evolve as an ecosystem, and we call it the Silicon Valley of the East, maybe they'll call Silicon Valley the Bangalore of the West or whatever, and we've seen that journey happen. Nandan, what are your reflections on how we've kind of built this ecosystem?
Yeah.
And what makes Bangalore tick the way it does?
Yeah, no, I think it's, I've been all over the world and I've seen all these ecosystems. I think Bangalore is really spectacular. I mean, the Valley also has a similar element. I think the basic thing is everybody is supportive and collaborative, which is very important, and everybody is paying forward. So people are always willing to invest in the next person or the next idea or the next new thing. And so that forward-looking, future-looking thing with people from all over the world is, I think, the heart of it. That's why the innovation is so fast. So there's so many people who have failed and tried again. It's all accepted. So I think there's some of that. So it's, let's put it this way. If you take any city in India, and you as a complete stranger land in the city on Monday morning, and you know only one person, in 5 days, that fellow will introduce another person. So by the end of Friday night, you'll have met 100 people. I don't think it'll happen in any other city, right? Because everybody will say, okay, why don't you go and talk to him?
Beautifully said.
So that giving forward, being approachable, and doing it at this scale, right? So that makes a big difference.
Exactly. I think you so beautifully hit the nail on the head, and for us, that's what TiE is all about, right? It's a very unique culture where the charter members, who are largely here, are joining a network to give back. And that's the primary purpose, not to gain. And obviously in the process of giving back, there's a lot of gain that accrues as well, but the primary core purpose is that how do I spread the fostering entrepreneurship is what we call. I think that truly makes it unique. Now, what do you think is the future for a city and for an ecosystem like Bangalore, and what more do you think we must be doing, and what do you think are things that we must double click on and do more of and do less of?
Well, I think we need what we have going. I think it's great. I mean, we can always talk about infrastructure and all that, but frankly, it's the people who make it happen. So I'd rather have these people like this and not so good infrastructure than terrific infrastructure and no people.
Not
right?
people,
So
yeah.
it's better. So I think I think it's on the right track. I think I was recently studying. I was looking at what's happening with startups and all that, and I called up this couple who runs Traction. Abhishek Goyal and Neha Singh, and said, give me some data because you have all the data. So they told me there are 90,000 startups in India. I said, my God, and a lot of them in Bangalore. And then I learned one very important thing, which is the concept of, the fact that the startups lead to more startups. In the US, you have something called the PayPal mafia, right? These are all guys who worked at PayPal 20 years back.
Yeah.
And the most famous being Elon Musk, Reid Hoffman. I mean, there are a ton of them. Peter Thiel. Lots of these guys. They were all and so there may be some 5-10 guys who came out of PayPal and became entrepreneurs or VCs or whatever. I was just checking the data on Flipkart and Myntra. And between the two of them, there are several hundred entrepreneurs who have come out of that. And this is data from Traction. So that's the kind of binary fission happening, right? So company starts, that creates 10 entrepreneurs. Those 10 entrepreneurs go, they start another 10. So that's why this whole thing, this energy in the system. So you're reaching a point of takeoff right? You have liquidity events, either acquisitions or IPOs. You have new investors, you have angels, you have people who have made money putting money back. One thing you notice with the guys who have made money from startups, they put the money back into startups.
Yeah.
And they'll buy one house, then they'll put the money back into startups. So I see that all the time. So then that capital cycling is happening. Then, people are part of giving forward. This T.N. Hari, who was at...
started the Artha.
Yeah, he started an entrepreneurship school.
Exactly.
So everybody's saying, okay, how do I make a difference to the whole thing? So I think that culture is solid.
And that's, I think, what we should celebrate every day.
Yeah, totally.
And talk about that much more, because that's what is,
Yeah.
I think you said it beautifully, we need that critical mass to build up.
Yeah.
I know you have a hard stop at 8, so I want to open it up for questions, but before we get there, just, and by the way, we have signed copies of the books for everybody from Nandan and Tanuj. Unfortunately, Tanuj is not here today. But Nandan, 5 minutes before we go into the thing. This book is very different from the other themes and other books that you've written. What was the trigger for this?
See, this was a book which was a pandemic book. The pandemic book, hang around doing Zoom calls or reading Twitter, doom scrolling or whatever. So I to break the monotony of the pandemic, as soon as the parks opened, which also took some time, I would go for a walk in the park. And then to make that walk a little more interesting, I would invite someone to join me for a walk. Masks and 6 feet apart, all that stuff. So I had a list of 20, 25 people.
Nice.
And I would rotate them. So I'd start with the first guy, second guy, third guy, then come back to the first guy. So I always had someone to join me for a walk. And one of them was Tanuj, who was in high spirit.
Yes.
And then we were just bemoaning the state and all that, and then saying how we were coping. And then I found that we both had similar coping mechanisms. And that's what led to the book. And of course, Tanuj has done a lot of the hard work. But the fundamental thing is, my first 2 books were big picture policy books. By the way, this also has a lot of that. So the third section is actually about technology strategy. But I thought we should start from something which makes a difference to people. And that's how we talked about. And the thing is very simple. Don't let your technology control you. You control your technology. Because, because the thing is that with all these apps and all that, they're designed to make you addicted and to get you angry. Some WhatsApp forward will come in the morning and you'll get pissed off, right? So forget it. Don't get into all that. So I don't do any of this. So my life is very simple. I do all my work on my laptop. So when I sit on my laptop, it's work. I do all my reading and browsing on my iPad. So when I pick up my iPad, it's
only reading.
Curating and reading. Communication is only phone, voice, and text.
You don't use WhatsApp?
No chance. Impossible. Because, first of all, I think they've improved it earlier. Anybody could include in any group and send anything. I mean, you've got bananas, So I don't do WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Messenger, TikTok, Reels, Koo, none of those things.
Wow.
I do use Twitter, but only for broadcast. I don't engage in some
conversations.
No chance.
And your own, it's been what, about a year, 6-7 months since the book is been out?
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have heard stories of people reading the book.
Yeah, I get a lot of emails or calls saying this has been really great for me and I've got a sense of, got a handle on my life. The other thing I have, by the way, is zero inbox.
Terrific. No, I've seen you, Nandan. One of the things I'm amazed at, and it was you or be it Mr. Murthy. I was sharing in the last conversation we had with Mr. Murthy when we conferred the award. It was amazing. You send an email. And within 2-3 hours, you get a response. Then you get a response. And that's been my experience with emails to you.
No, I want to go to sleep with zero inbox.
Wow.
That's my goal in life. The idea being that if you sort out your issues of the day and you sort out your inbox, when you get up in the morning,
you start fresh.
It's a new day.
Yeah.
There's no baggage from yesterday. Perfect, no?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Super. One last question before we open it up. You said you would want to look more into the future than in the past.
I mean, this conversation, I rarely go back like
that. Yeah. So, if we were to do the WhatsApp in finance moment again or whatever, how do you see yourself what do you see as your own journeys over the next 4-5 years? That's one. And
Yeah,
two,
well, I'll let you tell you what I'm up to.
Ah.
So that'll hopefully answer that question. Obviously, I have the Infosys job,
Right.
but that's chairing the board of a fantastic CEO in Salil Parekh. So that's great. The 3 or 4 big ideas I'm working on. The first is ONDC, which is the Open Network
Yeah,
for Digital
yeah.
Commerce, which we think will transform the way commerce is done. So everybody, it's a very inclusive plan. So everybody can do e-commerce. The retailer can do e-commerce, any supplier can list his products. So I think it's going to democratize e-commerce. So that's one big thing, and that I'm on the advisory board. Also, I'm sort of chairing the strategy committee of that organization. So that's one thing which I think is very, very important for India. The second thing is what's happening on the account aggregator.
Right.
So the account aggregator is a dramatic way of putting power of data into the hands of people.
Right.
And it's been launched by the central bank, Reserve Bank. We have about 700,000 people who have now got their consent on that. So it's slow. It's like how UPI was 6-7 years back. That will now, in my view, in the next 5 years take off. And what that will do is it will democratize access to credit at scale. So millions of individuals and millions of businesses will get access to credit. And suddenly India will really, the economy will get into a much higher gear thanks to all that.
Yeah.
So that's the third thing, very important I'm doing is I'm supporting the whole Indian language mission. In fact, I'm going to Chennai day after tomorrow to launch a center at IIT Madras. There's something called AI for Bharat. And the purpose is to create complete AI models for all Indian languages, for all things like speech to speech, text to speech, text to text, whatever, all that. And all that will be available free to anyone. For example, you're a startup and you want to offer a voice-based service in 22 Indian languages. You can just use this
plug
stuff.
in, yeah.
So that will, because we have to make all this available to everybody. So that's another big thing. And the fourth thing I'm doing is, and people like Sanjay Anandram and all are working on that too, is how do we take Indian digital goods global?
Exactly.
Because what we have done in India is, so these 3-4 things I'm doing.
Lovely. And it's a leading question, but I'm just saying today we have a 200 member strong charter member community and 600-700 odd members, and TiE itself reaches out to some 25,000-30,000 entrepreneurs when we do events. What is it that this community can help in each of these or any of these missions that you're on?
No, I think you're the bridge between the infrastructure we create and the entrepreneurs. So I think, for example, you could have, and I could help organize that, a session on all the new digital public goods coming.
Beautiful.
And you could invite the charter members, and
open it up. Yeah.
Any entrepreneur.
Oh, it's
how will ONDC work? How will
Beautiful.
language work? How will account aggregator work? And we'll get a bunch of
Lovely.
very qualified speakers who will tell you what's happening.
So we're going to take you up on this.
Yeah.
Right? So we've been looking at various spaces. And
Yeah.
just recently, I was with Dr. R.S. Sharma in Paris for the India delegation.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at the way that NHA is now thinking about the whole health stack.
Yeah. Viva Tech,
Yeah. So it was...
No, he's a great guy. See, this is again, people, in India we don't realize how things happen, right? And we don't know what leads to what. A very interesting thing happened in the late 70s, 78 I think. Till then, the IAS entrance exam, actually all civil service entrance exam, was only art subjects. So even if you had studied engineering, you had to study history to appear for the exam.
Correct.
So obviously it was meant for guys who went to Stephens or Hindu
Right.
College or Miranda House or whatever. In the 78, they opened up the IIT and opened up the entrance exam to doctors and law engineers. It's important. So today, a guy did engineering, he could take an engineering subject for IAS. And that's when suddenly we had a lot of doctors and IIT and engineers getting into this thing. And he's the first of that batch.
Wow.
So he joined in 78 after doing his MTech from IIT Kanpur.
Wow.
And this is a guy who does programming as a hobby.
Wow.
So how I met him also is very interesting. I was in Delhi and I was looking for a team. I didn't know how to operate this government stuff, right? No clue. So I needed a strong guy. So somebody said, there's a guy in Jharkhand, Ram Sevak Sharma, he does programming as a hobby.
Yeah.
I said, "Okay." And this fellow had just gone to California and got a master's degree. So I said, this guy is an unusual guy. So I said, why, I got introduced to him and he came over for a meeting. He said, so I said, "Karne ka hai? Chalo karenge." That's how we started.
Wow.
He said, look, if you're stupid enough to leave your job and come here, I'm also stupid enough to join you. So he's a great guy, amazing guy.
Amazing.
Because he just cuts through things.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we worked together, then he became Chief Secretary in Jharkhand, then IT Secretary, TRAI Chairman, and now NHA. And what he's planning, health stack, this amazing stuff. So there's all these guys in the system who have been sort of technology guys and understand bureaucracy. So these guys have built a lot of this stuff.
So I think you've given us a target then, Nandan. So in the next 4 to 6 months, through not just TiE Bangalore, we will bring in other chapters. Let's organize a digital public goods.
Or we can even do it, I mean, if you want to spread it out, we can do it topic by topic.
Exactly.
Because one day we can do ONDC.
Exactly.
One
Then
day
we'll
we can
do
do
the
account
aggregator
aggregator.
systems.
One day we can do, the whole language stuff. I'll get the top guy in each of them to address. But you have to get a very good audience.
We are on.
The whole idea of this is for people to use this stuff.
Exactly. No, I think we will take that up. Maybe in the next 4 to 6 months, let's start planning that.
Just drop me a mail.
Yes, and I know I'll get a response in 3 months' time, and 3 hours' time. Okay, so we have another 5 to 10 minutes. Time just flew at the blink of an eye. I just looked at my watch and my God, half an hour is up already. So let's take 2-3 questions together and let's keep the questions crisp, right? Let's avoid the comments or this thing. So Manish, I think we can hear you.
Well, because I think the LC now was there, which is all the companies, and they all came together and created a self-governing area and brought in all the fundas that we had. So I think that's how it happened. The thing is, we had a critical mass. See, there were many companies, and they all were in the same spirit.
Anybody else? Yes, Srinath.
Yeah, I'll come to agriculture in specific, but I think technology has already permeated Bharat. I mean, I think, for example, there are 400 million people using WhatsApp. Many of them are in rural India. There are 260 million people using UPI. Many of them are in rural India. There are 1.3 billion people with Aadhaar. So there is a lot of it. I mean, I think the great thing that happened when Mukesh Ambani launched Reliance Jio was they discovered a very simple insight. They said that voice demand is inelastic, which means no matter how cheap voice is, I will not speak on the phone for 6 hours. Because, my voice only will go, right? Whereas data demand is elastic. If I have cheap data, I'll keep watching videos. This was the basic insight they had. And they therefore priced voice free and data cheap. And the rest is history. India's data consumption went from half a gig a month to half a gig a day, 30 times in just one stroke. So I think it's everywhere. I mean, I met a guy the other day. He's the CXO of a company, and he said during the pandemic he offered some cash to his maid. She said, no, just use GPay. So his maid is telling him he doesn't know about GPay. His maid is telling him about GPay. The point is that we underestimate the ability of people to take on technology, and I think I see a lot of very interesting companies working on rural issues, whether it's supply chain issues, whether it's ability to do quality using AI, lots of very interesting stuff. So I think it's going to start now.
Yes, Subbu.
No, no, you can do only once in 3-4 years. Because you have to have the ideas have to come also.
Yes.
So you spoke about AI, and that's something which is already gathering critical mass now. There are blind spots of AI, and there are ethical implications. At the moment, there is no regulatory framework about it. Any thoughts in terms of what we think should be in place as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a global problem, this whole issue of bias in AI, explainable AI and all that. And I think, yeah, we definitely need something. In the case of the AI that we are working on for languages, that's actually very much a government program. It's called Bhashini. That's the name of its National Language Translation Mission. And I have to check whether how much of it is explainable and all that, but that's, I think, required. But I think in India, we're looking at AI more for specific problem solving, and we should probably focus on that.
Yes. Yes, go ahead, please.
So on ONDC relevance, carry on, and everybody's looking forward to it. One of the open questions there is, if everything is broken into Lego blocks, who takes the ownership of the transaction? As an end user or a customer, who do I hold accountable for in case?
Yeah, I think so. For that, the ONDC guys are developing the protocols for who takes responsibility in a particular situation. How do you do dispute resolution? How do you create distributed reputation management? So there are a lot of these. I mean, nobody's done this, so obviously we have to discover all this. But I think there's a crack team working on this. Now, obviously, will it get? I mean, we don't know whether it will get the same seamless user experience of a single platform, right? Because there, one guy is controlling it in some sense. So, but it still will be good enough for a lot of things.
Yeah.
The best part is it's very good for hyperlocal. The retailer on the street can become part of ONDC and he can sell. So I think the ability to bring everybody onto the system is what will make it different.
We'll take one last question so that we have enough. Yeah, okay, we have two. Okay.
What's that?
Blockchain and so is blockchain meta hype or do you see reality?
Well, I look at everything through the prism of can we do something with it to benefit billion people? And if I'm not able to figure it out, then I don't spend time on it. So obviously, I think there are many possible use cases for blockchain, but I think I'm not like spending all my thinking about it because I don't know how will I use this to make a difference. So that's the only thing. And meta, of course, is again a little bit of hype, I think.
Yes.
Metaverse, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to see the background in which global companies came up, right? They came up in a world where there was a huge spend on advertising. The US spends a few $100 billion on advertising. And the internet model that worked was advertising, and therefore they could take revenue away from television and print to digital, which is what happened. India doesn't really have an advertising revenue model at all, because very little. I mean, the total digital ad spend in India is $2 to $3 billion. So you don't have a sort of revenue source to build a large company which gives free software and depends on advertising, because the revenue is not there. Though I think India will be a leader in transaction-based internet because of the fact that people are going to buy things, products and services, because UPI is there, because ONDC will unbundle. Will actually create a transaction economy ahead of anywhere else. And so I think that part of it is, I don't know whether we can really have the data to build a better search engine and all. It's difficult. And where's the revenue?
Super. So this can go on and on for hours. Nandan, one other request is somewhere in a year we need 1 or 2 hours of this freewheeling conversations. We'll try and get on your calendar in the least obtrusive way. But it'll be fantastic to have these kind of interactions to trigger our thoughts as well. So that's a request to you. So thank you very much. No, this has been fantastic. It's really a booster shot for us at TiE Bangalore to have you here, and we really look forward to that digital public goods conclave that we can do together.
Or I'll have 3 different ones.
Yeah, we'll figure out a track and we'll do 3 different things. And I think especially if we can instill that sense of direction and purpose, entrepreneurs can start building far more better solutions around that infrastructure. So before we wind up, given that we have all of you, just wanted to make 2-3 quick announcements. One, the Spirit of TiE Awards for this year, we'll open it up. So we look forward to nominations, thoughts, ideas. Nandan, we look forward to picking your brains on who should be the ones that we should really celebrate, not just as entrepreneurs, but someone who has contributed to building the entrepreneurial ecosystem, not just in Bangalore, but across the country as well. Sure. And we're brewing something very interesting with IIM Bangalore. Rishi is now a charter member, and we are trying to figure out various ways to work with IMB on that, including a charter member retreat. In fact, IMB has been saying, let's do an innovation forum where we will get academic researchers, entrepreneurs, and public policy guys to take one topic, go deep, and then converge ideas so that each of us can be better informed about the other viewpoint. So we're trying to create an innovation forum together with IIM Bangalore, which should launch shortly. The third thing which is underway is we are with TiE Global launching a global startup challenge at the Global Investor Meet in Karnataka. So we're working with the government of Karnataka to run a global startup challenge to help startups globally to come and invest in Karnataka. So some very exciting things underway. I'm sure we will have multiple things to engage on. Lastly, I just want to recognize and announce that we're very fortunate to have today got the support of Kyndryl, the IBM startup. Kyndryl has now just come on board today as an annual sponsor of TiE Bangalore with a commitment of 10 lakhs. So Lingiraj Savkar is here, the CEO of Kyndryl. Lingo, thank you so much for supporting TiE, and there's a lot that we can do together and look forward to working with Kyndryl. Thank you. So with that, stay tuned. There's lots to do, and we got an exciting project coming up now on the digital public goods. May I request Geeta to conclude it with a quick note of thanks.
Nandan, I'm going to take you back to 2007. You remember that we brought a venture capital delegation to Bangalore and Delhi and Mumbai. And when we landed in Mumbai, our next visit was Bangalore, and we found out that that day was an air show in Bangalore that was going on, and all the hotels were booked. So I called up Sridhar Mitta, and I said, what do I do, Sridhar? And then he said, call Nandan. So I called you and your office, and I said, we need a place to stay. And your assistant told me that, how many rooms do you want? I said 35, because all our delegates needed individual rooms. And then she said, let me go back to Nandan and I'll get back to you. And she said, can anybody room together? I said, that doesn't work for Americans. So then she called you up, and you approved all 35 rooms, and we stayed in your Infosys guest house. And one of the delegates is Oscar Jasdowski. He is the senior vice president of Silicon Valley Bank. And when I wrote to him a couple of days ago that I'm going to be seeing you, he said, please convey my thanks to him. So that is Nandan, folks, for you. And any time we contacted him from Boston, he was always very helpful to us. And this was a wonderful session. Don't you all agree? Yeah. So Nandan, my humble thanks to you and Rohini. And,
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much, Mr. Nilekani, I think for that great session of conversation and learning. I think I speak for everyone when I say how special this last hour has been for us. I'd just like to remind everyone that we have copies of books available as you exit. But for now, let's continue networking with dinner. Thank you so much. And drinks. Thank you. Yes, absolutely.